The Faculty of Law at the University of the West Indies in St. Augustine is having a workshop to educate and inform members of the indigenous population of Trinidad and Tobago about protecting their intellectual property and environmental rights of the indigenous people of Trinidad and Tobago. With me this morning is Dr. Justin Koo, lecturer Intellectual Property Law at the Faculty of Law. Good morning and welcome.
Morning, thanks for having us.
So tell me about this training workshop on protecting the intellectual property and the environmental rights of the indigenous people.
Well, I think I should begin by saying that this workshop is not just a one-off. It's part of a larger research project which is funded by the European Development Fund as administered by the Ministry of Education. And the title of the project as a whole is Strengthening Trinidad and Tobago's Human Rights Capacity Through Innovative Legal Education Delivery. So this is actually the third event on the larger project. So before we looked at human rights issues generally, we looked at refugees and migrant rights, child rights, and this is the third issue, which is indigenous people. So this workshop focuses primarily on bringing the indigenous people into the setting and talking to them about their intellectual property rights as well as their environmental rights.
And how has the other two events gone? And what do you expect to get out of this one?
Yeah, so I think the two events prior to this have gone excellent. They were completely sold out in terms of, the rooms were bursting with people. And to the point where we had to tell people, well, there's no more space. You need to follow up on what comes out from the workshops after. So we do produce written write-ups after. And in this one for the indigenous people, we will be producing a small short film for the public after.
And how can people access that film when it's...
So it will probably be made available online, on YouTube possibly, but more information should follow on the university website.
You said the first two events were sold out. This event is mainly focused on the indigenous people in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, so we're bringing the different indigenous groups together. So we have the Santa Rosa First People, we have the Partners for First People Development, we have the Warao Nation, and one other group coming in, and we're going to sit them down and have a discussion about intellectual property rights and environmental rights.
Now, you talk about the indigenous people and intellectual property rights. How does that work? How does it go together? What do they need to know?
Well, the idea is to try to enlighten them about what the products that they produce on a day-to-day basis, how this relates to intellectual property rights, and how they could really commercialize and market those rights. Because at the end of the day, intellectual property is very valuable. In fact, in the Caribbean, on average, copyright law alone contributes 5 to 8% of our GDP. And these are some areas where no one is tapping into. So it's really an untapped, large, untapped potential for indigenous people to grow their industry, grow their economy.
And before you would have planned this event, you would have been in contact with members of the indigenous community.
Have been.
What was the general consensus like from those you would have spoken to?
Well, at first instance, they were very excited about the project because they were very much in need of this sort of information because they really want to take their production to the next level. They want to get their products out there to the rest of the public because at present they very much focus on a very limited number of people who would know about it prior and then would come to them for it. But now this allows them to go into the larger national scale.
Yeah. And some of the items that you were talking about would be like medicinal plants, ornamental plants, agricultural products, materials that they could have been using.
Yes, so medicinal plants are a very big aspect of their output. And for example, this would invoke patent law. And they have to have the ideas about how to get protection for these medicinal items that they produce.
So it is basically a counseling shop for them to go and get information.
Yes, so we will be providing information. And then that's the IP side of it. But on the environmental side, it's also absolutely important to them that the environment is sustained, that their use and other people's use, so everyone else's use of the environment in Trinidad is sustainable because their livelihood is very much dependent on it. So we have to try to illustrate to the public and to them, what is required to sustain the environment.
Yeah, because that is important because, there is a view that the indigenous people, they, use a lot of what nature has to offer.
Yes.
And what are some things that they need to know before you head into the workshop as it relates to protecting the environment?
Well, I think they need to understand the value of the environment is not just for them, but it's for everyone else. And more than that, they have to understand if we're going to use the environment, it's about using the environment and replacing what they use. And there are laws governing these things. So it's about bringing them into the light about the laws that apply to the environment and making greater awareness, not just for them, but for everyone else.
Finally, where can people get more information and tickets for this event?
Right, so unfortunately, it's a closed event.
Oh.
So it was by invitation only. But like I said, there will be a film which will follow up the event and would document all the important aspects of it, which we will make available to the public.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Justin Koo, Lecturer, Intellectual Property Law at the Faculty of Law
Thank you for having
at the
me.
University of the West Indies.